That's what I was worried about. Welcome to the Ultimate Auntie Show on a Sunday night. You're wondering why I had Sunday night? Well, that's because yours truly had a busy schedule this week. In fact, so busy that I am currently monitoring the game over on Game Time Radio between the OCN Blizzard and the Winnipeg Freeze. They are just getting underway at the Hockey for All Center now with Skylar Peters and Eric Stewart. So you can tune in after the show if you want to watch that or listen to that game. You can do that after. They are underway on Game Time Radio. We'll keep you updated throughout the show here from 6 to 7. This is the Ultimate Hockey Show. As I said, a busy week for one of us, hence why we're doing this show tonight. We say good evening to Red Petty. Good evening, Red. How are you?
Very good, Michael. How about you?
Very good. Just like our Winnipeg Jets, who I thought played a very good game last night. I quickly went through the tape of last night's hockey game this afternoon because I missed it. Came away very, very impressed. Which leads me to believe, or leads me to question one of two things. And that is this. When a hockey team is on a losing streak, such as the Winnipeg Jets were on a losing streak, do you believe it's theoretically possible to come out of a losing streak in baby steps? As in, when you're struggling, you just try to eke one out, then you build off of that the next game, and the next game after that, you kind of build back to your regular game. Because, to be honest, that's how I feel like the Winnipeg Jets have been these last 3 games, where the first one was kind of to stop the bleeding of the losing streak. The second one was kind of, a little bit better, but not right where we want to be. The third one was kind of all out, probably the most impressive game of the season. How do you view that as far as coming out of a losing streak and then kind of building momentum game by game? Is there such a thing, or am I overthinking this?
Well, I think, you can. There's something to be said for what you're saying. I just think, I think it's even not even that complicated. I just think if you're a good team, if you're a playoff team, if you're a team that's going to compete for the Stanley Cup, then you've got to find multiple ways to win games, because you're not, let's say you play your defensive structure. Well, that works great on your defensive scheme and your system. That works great maybe against a team that is a run and gun team, right? Because then you can make them have to play defense, and you control the puck, and then you win the game 2-1 and or 2-0, whatever, and you're able to control that team, and because they don't know how to play that style, that's great. But then what happens if you come up against the team that plays like you do with that defensive struggle? Well, then you need to find some offense somewhere, right? You need to find a power play. You need to find other ways to win games. You need to have your netminder win a game here and there for you occasionally when you don't deserve to win a game, right? So I agree with you. Like the last few games, like that game, one of the worst teams in the league and one of the worst uniforms, by the way, that San Jose road uniform, that white thing with the green snot on it, that's just terrible. I don't know if you watched the game on Wednesday night. I went to the game. Those uniforms,
I did, yeah.
Those uniforms look worse in person than they do on TV. And that's saying something.
Which one? The Sharks?
The Sharks road jerseys.
Okay.
They're awful. They're just ugly. Ugly. 3 syllables. They're not ugly. They're ugly. And man, for the Jets to play against one of the worst teams in the league, and San Jose did not have Couture, and they didn't have Hurdle in their lineup, and they still played Jets almost to a draw, except for the fact that Jets got a fluky goal first off of Lowry's stick and then off of Morgan Barron's glove or pants, I don't know, and then went in the net. Was the only goal that was scored for the whole game. They won 1-0. But that's how you got to do it. When you're a good team, good teams find multiple ways to win. I've heard that so many times, and it's true. Teams that go to the Stanley Cup for some game series, you got to win one in the overtime one time. Another time you win in sort of a run and gun style. The next one, maybe your netminder completely wins the game for you because you're tired and you're outplayed, but he still wins you a game and you win the game 1-0 or 2-1 or something. So the Jets are doing that. They're finding ways to win. And I still think, as bad as they were, or not even bad, when they lost 5 games in a row, I didn't think they got completely hammered. Maybe one of those games they got horribly outplayed. The other 4 games they were in those games, they just couldn't score and they just didn't have much puck luck and whatever. But they didn't play awful. It's not like they didn't deserve to win or have a chance. They were in those games. So now they win a couple of games like that, really tight ones against, who was that? Like, well, they won against San Jose, 1-0 at home. And then they won against also the Penguins 2-1, even though they got horribly outplayed in the second period there by the Penguins. So now they go on the road and they win 4-2. And look what happens. Their power play comes alive. Wow. 2 power play goals. Sean Monahan got his first as a Jet. And you know what's the thing? I'm going to throw this back at you. I still think they're going to be even better. I completely agree with what they've done. Having Velarde on the line with Connor and Scheifele is the way to go. But Ehlers, he is a different cat. He's got a ton of speed, but I've heard this from so many people. He's hard to play with because he's hard to read and it's hard to play off him. Now, I think Monahan can do that, but he needs time to figure out because that line, Monahan, Perfetti, and Ehlers has just not been very effective. I mean, it's been average, very average, and maybe held the other team even, but they have not created a lot of offensive opportunity so far. So, but it's time. And from what I've heard, Ehlers is a hard guy to play with. So, or I shouldn't say hard, he's challenging to play with. So, but can you imagine if they get going, if Monahan's line gets going and then Adam Lowry's line starts to work again, I love that 4th line. I tell you, Nemestikov, Barron, and Iafallo, that could be the best 4th line in the whole league. Is there any other line in the league that has that much talent on it, on the 4th line?
Sorry, which line?
Iafallo, the 4th line, Barron, Iafallo.
Okay. No,
is my volume no good? Do I need to talk louder?
No, we're good. I just want to make sure you weren't bringing up a Lowry line.
No. That line needs to get going, but the 4th line has been really good.
The way
4th line has been great. The 2nd and 3rd line have been a little bit invisible for the last 3 or 4 games. So let's go.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think you're going to. I think you're going to early 2010s, LA territory with that 4th line. Despite having multiple LA Kings, former LA Kings, I guess, on that 4th line that I follow. It's like we have said over the years, Rick, for the Winnipeg Jets to be a good team, Adam Lowry is the team's 4th line center. That's a discussion that we've had over the last number of years. But I think now, for the first time since 2018, we have a true 4th line in Iafallo, Barron, and then Nemestikov. And hey, Rick, if somebody gets hurt on that 2nd line, or in the top 6, you can slide up Vlade Nemestikov to be a winger or a center. Doesn't really matter. He's shown the versatility.
Yep.
To me,
Iafallo.
I'm going to say this because I'm going to say it again because I said it to somebody earlier today. The Jets need to keep rolling 4 lines. That's the only way this is going to be successful. That's the only way that they're going to work out of their current slump. Do I have a concern about that 2nd line? To answer your question, yes, I do. And it's interesting because I don't have a dislike for Nikolai Ehlers, but yet I think he's the one that's not making that line sort of click, right? And he can be a pretty streaky player, but I agree with your assessment. I think he's a really hard player to play against, and player to play with too. So I don't know what the solution is. Like, is there another trade in the offing somewhere? Because to be honest, you're you're not taking apart the Lowry line as constructed. Lowry, Appleton, and who's the other guy on that line there?
Niederreiter.
Lowry, Appleton. Oh, Niederreiter. But no, I do not taking that line apart. The Connor, Shifley, Velarde line, when going, you get what you got last night. It's kind of the line that doesn't fit right now, the Ehlers line. Ehlers, Nemestikov, Iafallo, just as to try it. I don't know what the answer is.
No, I think you just leave it. You have to give it time. The other lines, the only thing you could maybe do, because you brought Monahan in to be a second line center, the only thing you could do is you tell Perfetti he's not playing well enough. Perfetti's been a little bit of a passenger. I don't know why. He's getting pushed around. Maybe you move Niederreiter or Iafallo up to that second line to play. Like for me personally, I would put Iafallo up there because Iafallo's he's a North American player. I think Monahan needs another guy there to grind and to bang pucks around in the corner and get pucks out and free pucks up for Ehlers. I'd like to see that. Ehlers, Monahan, and Iafallo, or alternatively, Ehlers, Monahan, and Nemestikov. I know Perfetti, they want him to be a top six forward. He's got lots of talent. He can see the ice really well. But the last few games, he's been a passenger, and it hasn't been good. So I don't know. That's me personally. Others might see it completely different. And I like Perfetti. I'm not down on him. I think he's only going to get better over time. But
yeah. Other news, I don't know if you caught the story here, but the New York Rangers have come back from a 4-1 deficit on the New York Islanders to win the Stadium Series game this afternoon. That's a shock to me based on what I saw from the guys on Broadway early in that hockey game.
yeah, they're a good hockey team, the New York Rangers. So
they are, and then the Islanders haven't really had that coaching bump since Patrick Waugh came back in, but we can discuss that later on. There's a certain member of the New York Rangers that I want to talk about for suffered a season-ending injury for the regular season anyway, as it pertains to the Winnipeg Jets. But where did the Jets go from here? I mean, obviously, they play in Calgary tomorrow afternoon. They play at home to Minnie on Tuesday, then go to Chicago on Friday before hosting Arizona next Sunday. I don't know about you, but when I looked at this schedule, why can't the Jets win all 4 games this week coming up?
well, I think they can. You're right. I mean, the Calgary hasn't played very well at home. Like they've lost.
They lost to San Jose the night after the Jets beat San Jose 1-0.
Yeah,
San Jose exploded for 6. And then Detroit exploded for 5 yesterday afternoon, and Calgary didn't score a goal. So
the Flames lost 5-0 yesterday. I didn't.
yeah, they lost 5-0 yesterday to Detroit.
Yeah, so I think Calgary's vulnerable. Chicago, Arizona, St. Louis, yeah, like those are all winnable games.
Can you not just go win right across the board unless, granted, they're probably not going to win all of them, but I think we should have that expectation that they're going to win 4 out of those 5 that you mentioned.
You think, yeah, and then they play a lot of road games then after that in the month of March. March is a tough month. They play basically 15 or 16 games.
Yeah, it's 16 games in 29 days in March.
And the majority of them, I think 9 out of the 7 or 9 of the 16 are on the road. So they have a big
on the road, and that's that. But you have a schedule in front of you. That's that Eastern road trip, right? Carolina, Washington, in that general area.
Well, no, right in the middle, they play 5 games in a row. They go Columbus, Rangers, Devils, Islanders, Capitals.
Ooh, the Eastern Seaboard gauntlet.
That's in 1 week. They basically play 5 games in 7 days.
But they could basically stay at one hotel for that New York, New Jersey trip.
Yeah, yeah,
So to say that that's travel, I think is a little bit interesting. Because those guys don't spend a lot of time on a plane when they go New York to the Islanders to New Jersey, etc., etc.
yeah,
Um, and they're in their bed at a fairly decent time, even when they go to Philadelphia and
yeah.
Washington. Like if you look at the travel on the Metro, I don't think it's anything like what we have in the Central, or even anything like what we have in the Pacific division as well. As well. Just wanted to mention hi to those of you watching on my X account. X is formerly Twitter. We're simulcasting on my Twitter account for the first time. Welcome those of you that are watching on X today, as well as we reach out for new avenues to promote the show. That being said, with what has impressed you maybe about the Jets game last night, where it seemed like the Lowry hit and then the Decept fight, which led to the instigated penalty, which led to the power play goal. Really seemed to spark the Jets. Last night to me was one of those. It was a hard-nosed hockey game, but it was like a playoff game. And if you want to play that way and you want to take the Jets to the back alley, they could do that too, as they showed. What did you learn about the Jets in what I thought was one of their best games of the season?
Well, I learned that their power play is not completely dead. It was revivable. It was on the table.
There's some life in the electricity of the power play.
They had the priest in the room giving it last rites, and then they revived it off the table. And yeah, it scored a couple of goals. You know what I liked about the game last night is, I don't know if you noticed, but it looked like, I mean, it was a pretty intense game. Like I think people were talking about it, revving it up. Hockey night in Canada. It's later in the evening, but it's the only game of the later games because there was no other game being late. There were other simulcasts at 6 o'clock and at 3 o'clock, but that was the only game at 9.
Yeah, the only game in Canada. Your picture's completely frozen. I've lost your. Hang on a second. Just waiting for the signal here to get to some semblance of normal. Hang on a second. We'll have to get Rick to come back out and go back in. We've completely lost Rick. It's now gone to a black screen. That's unfortunate. I mean, laptop maybe died. Yeah, we'll have to see here. I cannot see Rick anywhere. Hang on a second. I'm gonna let him reconnect. Completely lost his signal. But yeah, no, it was a playoff game. The Jets fell behind 1-0 on a goal early in the second period. The Jets tied it, took the lead. Vancouver tied it, and the Jets scored two late goals. Two late goals in the third period to win 4-2. They couldn't hit an empty net in the last 3 minutes, but they defended that nicely to give Connor Hellebuyck a victory. It's now 35 of the last 36 starts for Connor Hellebuyck have been quality starts that beat 3 goals or less, much like pitching. Starting pitching gives up 3 runs or less. You're going to win a lot of those games as well. So that's the way that kind of materializes. If you look at the broader picture, when the Jets score 3 goals or more, they are like 31. They're like 29, 2, and 1 when they score 3 goals or more. Rarely ever have they lost a game when scoring 3 or more. NHL seems to be the benchmark of the first team to 3 wins a lot of games. Connor Hellebuyck, one of the top goaltenders in the National Hockey League, as well. I think I saw a stat today. That said, he's like 24 plus, that being 24 sort of goals above expected. Goals saved above expected, I mean. I don't know. As we'll wait to see here, it apparently lost an internet connection. So we're going to restore that connection with Rhett. I'm assuming you're ready to go, Rhett? Hang on a second here. I can't hear you. You did give me a thumbs up. I was just talking. Yeah, you did. Okay. I was just talking about how Connor Hellebuyck has 35 of his last 36 starts have been quality starts of 3 goals or less. In that time, the Jets are 29, 2, and 2 when scoring more 3 goals or more. So I was making the comment, Rich, that the NHL seems to be the first to 3 and you win a lot of games as well. And I also said that Connor Hellebuyck is one of the top goalies in the NHL with 24 goals saved above expected, which places them near the top. But if you want to look at defensive metrics for the Winnipeg Jets, they are allowing the fewest high-danger chances in the NHL. Depending on what stat metric you use, that could be a bit of a gray area, right? Where's that sort of home plate area? But all in all, Rick, it's not an accident. We see this every year. The teams at or near the top of the NHL play really, really good team defense and have really, really good goaltending.
No. And I would agree with you. And the Jets play a system that works to win games during the regular season, but it's especially effective in the playoffs because you have to be patient. You play defense first, and you get your chances on the power play. You spring a 2-on-1, you bury it. You put pressure on the other team to now score against you, and you're already playing this defensive style. That's what the Bruins have relied on for forever. The Rangers play that way a lot of the times. Same thing with the Golden Knights. So I think the Jets playing the system, number one, is great. And then when you play that system, and then you have a goalie like Hellebuyck on top of that when you do have a crack in the armor here or there, he fills in the gap. Hellebuyck right now, with the Jets playing the way they do, plus Hellebuyck, they are as good as any team in the NHL. Right now, Hellebuyck is my candidate for Vezina. And I'm not saying that because I'm just looking at who else is Swayman. Okay, he's played good. Thatcher, Demko's played well, but their stats are not like Hellebuyck. You know, the Hellebuyck is closing in on a record right now for the most games in a row, having given up 3 or fewer goals against.
Yeah, it's 35 of his last 36 and a really stupid amount.
No, it's 35. He hasn't given up 35. It's 36 in a row, 35 in a row. There's one game they had 4 goals scored against, but one was an empty netter, so that's not counted against him.
Yeah, no, that was the game Brossoit played in Boston with. That's excluded from the total.
But when they play, but he didn't play. That was Brossoit.
Yeah, so that went on Brossoit. So it's 35 of the last 36 games Hellebuyck has played. It's been 3 or less.
Right. So for Hellebuyck, it's 35 games in a row, 3 or less. That's what I'm talking. Yeah. I'm not talking about Brossoit, 35 at 36. I'm just saying it's Hellebuyck for when he starts and he plays the game. he hasn't given up more than 3 goals in forever. And it's coming in on a record. I don't know what the NHL record is. If it's 40 games, like it's close. He's getting to the point
Yeah.
where, but so
I
I think
mean, man,
right
I'm
now the
sitting
Jets,
here and I'm like, I should play our clips in the season preview and even to wrap up the year last year. Like,
why?
this team is gonna get blown up. Shifley and Hellebuck don't have contracts. It's like all this afterthought worrying, and this team didn't look so different. And now
Well, they
all
are
of a sudden, Mark Shifley signs the contract extension. Looks like the best center in the NHL when he wants to be.
They are different. They are. We talked about they are different. But you're right. We didn't know what they were going to do with Hellebuck and Shifley. But you're right. Signing Hellebuck and Shifley was a good thing because he's their number one center and he's the number one goalie. And they would be. You're right. If the Jets had not, if they had allowed Shifley and or if Shifley and Hellebuck had not been signed and they'd traded them away and gotten assets, it would be to a large degree, depending upon what they got back. Largely, it would be like a mini rebuild. It wouldn't be a complete rebuild, but it'd be a mini rebuild. Maybe they could get back a haul like they got back for Pierre-Luc Dubois, but there's no guarantee of that, right? Why would another team trade away a number one center to get a number one center, right? So you'd probably have to get some draft picks and get some.
And the interesting part is I watched LA play Boston yesterday before I went to work.
Yeah.
And from what I saw, Pierre-Luc Dubois looked very, very invisible. I actually forgot he played for LA. That from what I saw of the game, and then Brant Clark scoring in overtime. His first ever NHL goal was a beautiful goal.
And I know, but I was going to say, you're talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois. Isn't that what we talked about?
Yeah.
A great hockey player, but there's something about his makeup. He's a little bit, he plays at times so without, I don't know if I say it's passion or indifferent. He can go for games being a passenger. Like a guy like Pierre-Luc Dubois, it's like, I don't know, I don't know to say the example, but you compare him to like, well, any first line or second line center, guys like Marchand or McDavid, or you pick your McKinnon, the superstar players, they're never passengers. Sometimes their game is maybe a little bit off, but they're always involved. They always seem to be in it. And there's games where Pierre-Luc Dubois looks like he could be the best player in the NHL. And there's other games that's like, man, was he even on the ice last night? And he drives coaches crazy. He drove Tortorella nuts. And he drove Maurice crazy, but Maurice has way more, what's the word? He can bite his tongue and he won't throw a player under the bus like a Tortorella will. Tortorella just had enough of him and said, that's it. He pulled him off the bench. He said, he's not playing for anymore. He told the general manager, you could do what you want with him, but he's not playing on my team because I can't count on him. When he went out there and he was just skating around.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of guy he is. And look at in LA now, he goes from being there and kind of, they come out like house on fire, LA. Now the coach is fired, and Pierre-Luc Dubois has not been great. So
he looks like a fourth line center at times, but it's so bizarre because the guy has so much talent. He was the guy that was taken after Matthews and Laine, and
he was third overall.
Yeah, he was. And then now you have Puljujarvi, and like it's some guys. I'm trying to figure this out quite nicely, but if it doesn't work in Columbus, it doesn't work in Winnipeg. So far, hasn't worked in LA. Don't you have to look yourself in the mirror with some kind of accountability that says maybe it stops and starts with me and my work ethic? And maybe my work ethic is the problem and not these places.
Yeah, but the problem is, as a general manager, you don't have time to figure out the psychology of players. You care about them, but
right.
At the end of the day, and I hate that phrase, I'm not going to say that, but bottom line, okay, there's another cliche. Sorry. End of the day, bottom line, here's the thing, whatever my segue is, a player like that, you can't keep as a general manager forever. You get so excited for the potential, and it's like buyer beware. And you get him, and then you immediately or shortly thereafter have buyer remorse. Now the Jets, they had to get rid of Laine. Laine went to be here. They got Pierre-Luc Dubois in. He played well for a couple of years here and there, but eventually he didn't want to be here. He wanted to sign long-term somewhere else. All the best to you. The Jets got 3 players in return plus a draft pick. I think the Jets will do just fine with who they have right now.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of questions about this, like signing him to a long-term extension before he ever played the game for your team. I understand why you did it.
Well, it was a sign and trade, right? Wasn't it for the because the
yeah,
Jets
it was a sign and trade, but that was part of the deal, which is very interesting. But you would do that for a team, for a guy that doesn't have the greatest of track records on the ice.
I know, and that's the problem. We got a comment from a listener, and I totally agree. General managers get so excited with the potential, and yet you have to look at the reality.
And, yeah.
Like if I'm a general manager, and again, Rob Blake, he's a good general manager. He's not an idiot. He played in the NHL. He was a good hockey player. But I'm just saying, he sees Pierre-Luc Dubois drafted 3rd overall, goes to Columbus, has a great few years there in the playoffs against the Leafs, all that potential. But then Tortorella has had enough of him. So Tortorella wants him gone. He's still, that's Tortorella. He's hard on everybody, blah, blah. So he comes to the Jets. Cheveldayoff gets excited about him, brings him in. Again, you have to get value for value. You trade out Laine. Now, who wants Laine? That's a whole other story. He got, he's one of 2 or 3 guys there that got Kekalainen and fired in Columbus. But now he comes here. He has a year and a half. Oh, he's actually here 2.5 years, I guess, roughly. And he played okay. But there were times where he was just, like I say, just not in it to win it. It just seemed like it. Now, I could be wrong, but it just seemed like there were times where he just wasn't there. And then the Jets say, okay, you want to go somewhere else? I think the Jets were happy that he wanted to sign somewhere else, because that's the problem. A guy like that, you might be forced to sign him. Maybe. I think the Jets were happy to get rid of him. And now Rob Blake wants him. Go ahead, Rob Blake. You can have him. Good luck. And you sign him, 8 years at $8 million a year? Good luck with trying to get rid of that albatross if you want to sometime in the future.
That's a buyout candidate within the next 2 years.
Well, I don't know. But I'm just saying, I totally agree. Reality, yes, there are situations where sometimes a player and in his potential, he's being hindered because of the situation, whatever. You could say that about Velarde. Velarde even said, I had chances to play in LA, but not as much. I got some chances to play in the first and second line. A lot of times he played in the third line as the center. He says, I'm getting more of an opportunity here in Winnipeg. He was a young player in LA. Sometimes a guy needs just a change of scenery, plays with some other great players, and suddenly he can blossom and be something. But Pierre-Luc Dubois, he played with really good players in Columbus. He played with very good players here in Winnipeg. So all I'm going to say is the Jets are good. I'm glad that they signed Scheifele and Hellebuck. And you know what? They have a good team. They have such a good team. Think about this. They cannot get Rasmus Kupari healthy into the lineup. For me personally, I want to throw this out there. What do you think of this idea? For me personally, I think Cole Perfetti, first-round draft choice, has to go upstairs and sit for a bit. That's my personal opinion. I would put Kupari on that 4th line, and I would move Iafallo up to that 2nd line with Monahan and Ehlers. Because Perfetti is just not doing enough to warrant playing 2nd line minutes, in my mind. So, but anyway, I'm just putting
You're not. I don't think you're wrong. I think they're underestimating his abilities at that young age. I think they're giving him too much responsibility.
Okay, and that could be. And I'm not throwing him under a bus. I'm not saying they should get rid of him. I'm just saying sometimes young players need a chance to pull back, watch a little bit, spend some time working on their defensive game and on other things before they get put back into the lineup. That's
to me. In hindsight, 2020. For me, Perfetti would have been a lot better starting with the Moose at his natural position at center ice.
Yeah.
His development was stunted when they said, you're going straight to the NHL.
He didn't go straight. He played it with the Moose.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, during the COVID year where they made the exception, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
He's an NHL player. I just think I would, similar to Logan Stanley, I want him in the lineup once in a while. I don't want him sitting on the in the rafters for forever. It's the same thing with Kapari. I want him in the lineup regularly. Take Morgan Barron, take some other guys out. Like I'd like to see some influx of other players, giving them a chance. They're hungry, and yeah, that's like. And I just want to make one other comment. I want to throw it out there because we're talking about this. Then we could talk about some of the other things in the league, like the the big win by the Rangers there in the Classic after being down to the Islanders coming back. The game yesterday, the Jets played a game I thought which was really what I was really, because you asked me originally going way back to the beginning of the show, what impressed you about the win? You know what impressed me about the win the most? The Jets, they came to play hockey, and I think the Canucks at time with that intensity level and the playoff hockey, they played borderline dirty. Like there was some just throwing elbows around and kind of doing cheap shots and cheap hits here and there and kind of going for the body and really trying to, I don't know if it was intimidate the Jets or I don't know what. And what I thought is the Jets really played that well. They didn't get drawn into it, and they stuck it to the Canucks when they tried to run a guy or whatever. Scheifele took a big hit, set up a big goal after getting cranked at the blue line, but then Connor and Velarde went in on a 2-on-1 and buried it. Great play. And I thought the Jets, they played a playoff style, but they didn't get sucked into, all the penalties and all the, the back and forth, and they played hard. They didn't back down, but they didn't get drawn into the dumb stuff. And I thought that was really good. That's a smart hockey team that knows how to play when that type of thing happens. And I was really I thought the Jets played really well last night. I don't know about you, but I thought that road game was a great road game. Like we heard about Vancouver, all their offense, they had a few chances here and there, a few shifts, but I know it's not like Peterson and Miller were just dominating. But I got to say this though, the penalty calls, Michael, I don't know what goes on. My gosh. It's like we call that penalty against them. We should call a penalty against them. Oh, their coach gets excited because we called a penalty against them. Now we better call penalty. It's a Jets. Those penalties. I mean, there was one that Pionk got called for holding. His hand came off his stick. He's behind the net, and he kind of grabbed the guy a little bit. Can I tell you something? That happens 50 times in a game. Okay, I get it. You're going to call that. I get it. I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me. But that push that Schmidt put on that guy in front of the net, that happens 100,000 times in a game, and they call that. And then the other one, which was just awful, was that one where Brendan Dillon pushed Peterson behind the net. Do you know which one I'm talking about? It was behind the net, and he just gave him the shove in the back, and Peterson went down like he was like a deer getting shot.
He flopped
like a blind. That he went down, and he would literally, it was like this. Listen, refereeing is a hard thing, but again, I hate it when refs put themselves into a game. You know what? There's no rule that says because one team is playing dirty and you call 3 penalties against them that you have to look for anything on the other team, the chintziest, cheapest, most indiscriminate thing, just so that you could somehow even up the penalty. No. If that's the bar and it's dirty plays, then you call the dirty plays and you don't call the cheap stuff just to even it up. If the other team does some stuff like what the others did, then call that. But the stuff, every penalty that got called against the Jets was like, and again, I'm a Jet fan, but I can say if the Jets get called cheapies again or for them, I'll call it too. The Jet penalties that were called against Vancouver were dirty right up here. And the Jet penalties that were called against them, they were way down here. They weren't even in the same stratosphere. It's a joke. I mean, that penalty.
And out of the playoffs, with you and I know this very well. The rule book goes by the wayside in the playoffs.
Well, I hope so, because if they're calling that in the playoffs, well, there's just going to be guys in the penalty box for 18 to 20 minutes every period. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, that was just awful, except for the penalties called. That game was a great game. The refs almost ruined it by shoving themselves into it, in my opinion. That's my humble opinion. But anyway,
let's quickly mention couple of things that went on in the NHL this last week.
okay.
Jarmo Petalainen out of a job in Columbus, 10 years on the job, no results. Boy, oh boy, if there's a general manager that has had a long rope, it's him, and they finally said enough is enough. And it's like it's a franchise right now that lacks direction.
I would agree. But yet what's interesting is that they've made some really good draft picks. Like Zach Werenski is a good hockey player. June Benner is or Jude. Sorry, I'm mixing up.
Sorry?
But no.
The defenseman?
Pardon? Jenner.
Defenseman? You're a
Boone Jenner. Sorry.
Boone Jenner. Yeah.
Boone Jenner is a great hockey player. Sorry, I'm just mixing up names. Zach Werenski is a great hockey player. So they made some great draft picks. But you know what? The two strikes were against that Kekalainen. Number one, trading. Was this like happy birthday to me? What was that? I just saw a bunch of balloons come up. Michael.
Pardon me?
Just a whole bunch of balloons came up.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Number one, signing or trading for Patrick Laine and what a dud he's been. Number two, signing as a free agent, Johnny Gaudreau. Those two big signing trades, like we're bringing in talent. Those guys have been probably the two biggest busts over the last year or two for any team in terms of bringing them in with the potential and everything that came with them and how they just haven't met it. And I think Kekalainen, it's just like, you know what? You got to get results. It's a results league. And you can't just hang on to a few things. Like I agree with you. They had tons of room there and he had tons of room to do things. And he just wasn't able to get it done. It's really unfortunate, but thank you. Oh, there's a list. Boone Jenner. See, thank you. I got it too. Yeah.
Why is the $1 million question?
Why what?
Why hasn't he been able to get it done? And why did it take ownership this long to make this decision?
Well, let me ask you this. Would you have signed Johnny Gaudreau as a free agent?
Probably.
Maybe not for the money that he signed, but
here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
I probably do not sign Johnny Gaudreau to that amount of money based on where my franchise is. The track record of Johnny Gaudreau in Calgary was star player, first line. You want to put somebody with line A, right? But my franchise is far away from Johnny Gaudreau being the final piece, right? And I think you set up Johnny Gaudreau, you set your franchise up to fail if you really have three talented offensive players and everybody else young. And granted, he deserved the least that he got because of injuries, significant injuries to significant players. Columbus has not been the same team since they played the Leafs in the bubble. They have regressed. Even that team that beat Tampa in 4 games in the playoffs maybe would have been different, right? So, but there wasn't any expectation, right? They came in as the 8th seed. Bottom line, when a team underperforms to their expectations, there's only so much you can do. And I think it was even more under a microscope after what happened to Mike Babcock and now former Moose coach Pascal Vincent being thrown into the head coaching role because they had no other choice. So, a, a series of unfortunate missteps led to this firing, and it took and was too long. And Rob is also bringing out this one, which I wanted to touch on. Mars Lincoln also wanted out of Columbus. That is a culture problem, 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I think there's
Look at Liney. There was a culture problem that we are now aware of, supposedly in Winnipeg. There was a locker room issue with Pierre-Luc Dubois involved. Issue.
yeah.
Liney underperforms. Gaudreau underperforms. Team underperforms. I really don't know what the expectations were. And that's what I say. They have no defined direction. Because I could make the case based on some of their defensemen that they should compete for a playoff spot. On paper, right?
Yeah.
Not on the ice.
No, I
Something
agree.
is wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong, but I just think I don't think it's that complicated. I just think you made two huge deals to bring in two superstar players. Like you could say those are your two, maybe Jenner's right up there, but Jenner's more of a, I wouldn't say he's a superstar, but Gaudreau and Laine are your two superstar players, your two superstar acquisitions, and they have both horribly underperformed. Laine, part of it's injury, but it's I think he's in rehab, or he was in rehab too. So I think he might have an alcohol issue. We're not sure exactly what's going on there, but I'm just saying your two big acquisitions have been real duds, to put it mildly. And so I guess that's what you're evaluated on. It'd be no different than Cheveldayoff. Cheveldayoff makes these deals for like for Dubois, and he brings in Velarde, Iafallo, and Kapari, and all three of those guys are duds. And they bring in Monahan. Monahan's a dud. They sign Scheifele to this deal, and Scheifele becomes invisible, and he just kind of whatever. Then people are going to say the same thing about Cheveldayoff. Your players still got to play for you. The guys that you bring in to be your best players got to be your best players. And that's the case in Winnipeg right now. It's not the case in Columbus. And that's why you have one general manager who's being considered for executive of the year, and another general manager is looking for a job. So simple as that. Let's move on.
The other thing is, right?
Yeah.
And again, I heard this on a football show, but it's tied to hockey in a way.
Okay.
You're loved in a fan base as a coach, but if you lose, you're the most hated guy in some places. And that's just the reality of it. The other thing I wanted to touch on quickly, Connor Bedard bat for Chicago, had an assist in his game. First game back, had a goal yesterday in Ottawa. How important was that for Chicago to get Connor Bedard back?
No, it's big. I mean, well, he's the franchise player. I mean, they're not going anywhere. So it's part of his development. It's part of him. He's got to play to get better and to learn how to be better. But yeah, I mean, Chicago, I don't listen. If he takes an extra 2 weeks to recover or not, it makes no difference. Chicago's not going anywhere. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. They're going to get a good draft pick. Okay. That's still a long-term deal there. So, but it's good for the NHL. Your star players, even your younger ones, should be playing. And he's a gritty kid. He's going to be, listen, this is just his first year. In 5 years from now, all we're going to be doing is talking about Connor Bedard. Just like we do about McDavid now. It's going to be all about Connor Bedard because he's that good. And you just got to get a little bit stronger, get a little bit more experience, learn the pro game a little bit more, learn how to figure out how to score at an elite level at this level of play and the size of men that are competing against them, and he'll figure it out. And then he'll be almost unstoppable. So, and then Chicago will be a pain in the Central Division for the Jets trying to get past them in the playoffs. You could see that happening in 5 years from now, but well, we'll see. Yeah. So how
Last
about
thing,
those Rangers?
sorry?
How about those Rangers?
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. 4-1, they come back to win. I think the score was 5-4 in overtime. Where do the Islanders go from here? Their coaching change seems to have them medaling about 500. They're 4-4-3 now, I think, with Patrick Roy's coach. Not having the desired effect, but a big win for the Rangers. Suddenly, they found their game after falling off a little bit.
Yeah.
What is that now? 7 in a row for the Rangers, who lost Blake Wheeler to what appears to be a very serious leg injury. I don't know if you saw the play.
I kind of saw it. The leg kind of folded underneath him. It looked like it tore up the knee.
Let's just say a leg is not supposed to bend like that.
Yeah, no.
Too bad. It's going to be the regular season for him, maybe the playoffs, depending how far they make it. Really wondering if he plays another game in the NHL. It just hasn't panned out for him on Broadway. Mind you, for an NHL minimum, that's probably acceptable. As the contract in Winnipeg at $6 million, probably not. The other thing I wanted to talk about quickly on the way out, just before we say goodbye and then look ahead to our next show. I don't even know when the heck that's going to be. You and I have to talk about that. Talk to me about Jaromir Jagr. His jersey went to the rafters today at PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh this afternoon. The game is now ongoing with the LA Kings. Talk to me about Jaromir Jagr and Mario Lemieux on the same team. What was that like to watch?
Well, that's when that was the early 90s. That's when the Penguins were
before my time.
That's when the Penguins, well, yeah, you would just probably you were just maybe born around that time, but no, that was, boy, those early 90s. I mean, because Jagr he came in the league around 90, 91, maybe 89. Lemieux came in 84, I think, was his first year as an 18-year-old or 19-year-old. But what's interesting, they just dominated in the early 90s. They won back-to-back Stanley Cups in, I believe it was 92, 91, 92. I think it was back-to-back there. But anyway, they were so good. But think about this. Lemieux and Jagr never played together. Like, they might have been on the power play together, maybe, but they never played on the same line. Like, Lemieux usually played with other players, and same thing with Jagr, usually played with Ron Francis, but they never, maybe on the power play they played together. But I'm just saying they were a good hockey team. And listen, Jaromir Jagr, he's just a freak of nature. Do you know that he's still playing pro hockey? He's 50, was he 54? I think 53, 54. He's still playing pro hockey. He owns a team in Czechoslovakia, and he plays on that team. He plays, and he's doing okay. Like, he's not like just filling in time. He's actually scoring occasionally.
He was on the ice with the Penguins in practice.
He practiced with them today. I know.
That was cool to see.
Jaromir Jagr is one of the greatest hockey players that ever played anywhere. I mean, he was a winner. And you know what the best part about him was? He was a great teammate. Like, that's important, right, guys? Like, they may have been good hockey players, but they were kind of jerks to play with, and they weren't great teammates or whatever. Guys liked playing with Jaromir Jagr. I mean, he was fun. He was a little bit carefree at times, especially early in his career. He wasn't that good at defensively, and some of the coaches, I think the late Bob Johnson, used to drive him crazy with how Jagr would play in his own end. But as he got older, he got smarter. He learned the game. He became more of a complete player. And when his legs couldn't move like he used to, he has still really good hands and can see the ice really well, plays very well positionally and defensively. So you learn your game and you learn your craft. And listen, Jaromir Jagr, he deserves to have his jersey retired by the Penguins. He deserves to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah, with the jersey retirement today.
Oh, that's not even a question.
It was too late, in my opinion, but better late than never, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what do we expect from the Jets this week? Just wrapping up.
Well, okay, so our next show is going to be next Wednesday, right?
I believe so. You said you wanted to talk to me about that,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I
no,
wasn't.
next Wednesday. So we're not going to go early next week. So we got a week and a half to go, which takes us. There's a few games then in between. That's the 28th. So that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games between now and then. So they play at Calgary, home to Minnesota, at Chicago, home to Arizona, and St. Louis.
St. Louis being the Tuesday.
Tuesday the 27th. Yep.
Yeah.
These are all winnable games, but I think it's a little bit silly to think the Jets are going to go 5-0. I mean, I just don't think that's possible, but maybe it is possible. I don't know.
They did it earlier this year.
I know it's possible, but I'm going to be a little bit more realistically. I'm going to say the Jets are going to go 3-1-1.
Yeah, that's exactly where I had them too.
They might even go 4-1. I think they're going to lose 1 in those 5. Maybe to Minnesota. Maybe to Calgary.
It's the Minnesota back-to-back, but I have the most questions about.
Oh, like the Flames and then the Minnesota the following night at home. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a scheduled loss, but the rivalry will probably get the Jets through that game, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, right? The first game post-Kaprizov and all that stuff too, right? So, bottom line, the Winnipeg Jets will still be in a playoff spot by the time we come back here a week from Wednesday.
Yeah.
That will be good.
Yep.
All right. Anything else before we go?
No. I'm really liking, like, actually the season is playing out really well. I'm just really liking the hockey is really starting to ramp up and it's becoming actually really exciting. I watched like a little bit of hockey yesterday. I was also working, but I watched some hockey here and there, watched the Jet game late, and just the hockey's really good. It's been, and there's some teams that have really just kind of come out of nowhere, but the Red Wings are playing really well lately.
They're a wild card team.
Yeah, Ottawa's played better lately, which is, we always thought they're going to be something there. The Sabres have played better lately. We thought they were going to be a better team than they were, and
but the problem right is, I think it's too late for those teams.
You think?
Personally, I think it is.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
You'd have to go on a ridiculous heater.
You would, and that's the problem. Like, we know with the way it is with the 3-point games, you're going to have to win literally. If you go
8 out of every 10 in them,
you'd have to win 9 out of 10 games or even 10 in a row. Because if every other team goes, let's say, even 6-4, which is just a little bit above 500, you're only gaining 8 points.
I mean, look at how much ground the Oilers made up winning 16 in a row.
Yeah, they made up some, but not
some, but not a lot, right?
No, exactly, and that's why I think the Jets are in a good spot. They're not going to fall off. We're not going to see the Winnipeg Jets we saw last year. They have a completely different team leadership there. It's just not going to happen. They have too much pride.
They're close to tying their win total in the last 2 months of the season last year in 1 month.
Yeah, so
I say that tongue in cheek.
Yeah, I know, but I think I'm just hoping the Jets can stay healthy. They had so many injuries at the beginning of the year and guys out of the lineup and whatever. I think they've had their share, and now it's like, okay, now let's see what they can do down the stretch. They've gone through their injuries. Now let's see them play some hockey. So, how about you?
Let's do it. Starting tomorrow afternoon in Calgary. Just a quick look on the Mates on Astro.News. Out of town scoreboard on our way out of here. Give me 1 second, Rich. Sorry about this. I told everybody I'd keep them updated, and I haven't been doing that right now. From the Hockey Brawl Center in the OCN Blizzard meeting with the Winnipeg Freeze and the first of the holiday weekend games. And OCN midway through the second is leading 2-0. Tomorrow it's going to be the Freeze hosting the Virgin Oil Capitals at 4 o'clock at the Hockey Brawl Center, and the Blues hosting the Steelers at the Hockey Brawl Center at 6 o'clock. Hence why I couldn't do the show tomorrow. And then our playoffs begin on game time on Tuesday night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then that's Monday. Another project that's going to be announced this week. That's Monday, Tuesday, and the following Thursday. So the last stretch before the summer begins for us here in the office. For Michael Dale, for Rich Petty, this is Michael Dale saying thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you a week from Wednesday. Don't cry because you missed us for 10 days. That's not worth it. We will be back, and we'll discuss that and more when we come back. Enjoy us on the last day of February, next Wednesday, February the 28th. We'll take a break. Good night here from Winnipeg.